I want to pause here. I made the decision to drive out to our cottage in Canmore unannounced. I'd been married to my wife for 38 years, and in all that time, I'd never once doubted her. But standing in our kitchen in Calgary that Thursday morning, staring at a credit card statement that didn't make sense, I realized I was about to discover something that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my life. My name is Robert McLeod. I'm 64 years old, a retired Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer who spent 35 years serving the people of Alberta. I'd seen the worst of humanity in my career, investigated countless cases of fraud, deception, and betrayal. But I never imagined I'd need those investigative skills to uncover the truth about my own marriage. It started 3 weeks earlier. My wife Patricia and I had been planning our retirement together for years. I'd retired at 60 from the RCMP with a full pension, and she'd stepped back from her nursing career at the Foothills Medical Center 2 years ago when she turned 60. We had our house in Calgary paid off, a cottage in Canmore we'd bought 15 years ago, and what I thought was a comfortable retirement fund managed by a financial advisor named Gregory Walsh. Gregory had come recommended by Patricia's brother 5 years ago. He was 42, charismatic, and seemed to know everything about investments and wealth management. I'll admit, finance wasn't my strength. I'd spent my career tracking criminals, not tracking stocks. So when Gregory offered to handle our portfolio, showing us charts and projections that promised we'd be comfortable for the rest of our lives, I'd been relieved to have an expert managing our money. That Thursday morning, I'd been sorting through the mail like I did every day. Patricia had left early, saying she was meeting her book club friends for brunch at the Kensington neighborhood. She'd been going to a lot of these meetings lately. Book club on Thursdays, yoga on Tuesdays and Saturdays, volunteering at the hospital gift shop on Mondays and Wednesdays. For a retired woman, she seemed busier than when she'd been working full-time. I opened the credit card statement addressed to both of us. We'd always had joint accounts, complete transparency. That's how marriages worked when you trusted each other completely. But as I scanned the charges, my chest tightened. There were purchases I didn't recognize. A restaurant in Canmore called the Iron Goat that Patricia and I had never been to charged 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday yoga class, she'd said that day. A boutique hotel in Banff called the Rimrock Resort charged for 2 nights last month. She'd told me she was visiting her sister in Edmonton that weekend. My hands shook as I continued reading. More restaurants, more hotels, all on days she'd said she was doing something else. Always in the mountains, always midweek. I sat at our kitchen table, the statement spread in front of me, and felt something crack inside my chest. In my 35 years as an RCMP officer, I'd learned to trust my instincts, and every instinct I had was screaming that something was very wrong. I called Patricia's mobile phone. It went straight to voicemail. "Hey, sweetheart. It's me. Just wondering what time you'll be home from book club. Give me a call." I kept my voice steady, casual. If there was an innocent explanation, I didn't want to accuse her unfairly. But if there wasn't, well, I needed to be smart about this. I pulled out my laptop and logged into our online banking. We had several accounts, checking, savings, and the investment accounts managed by Gregory. I hadn't checked them in months. Gregory sent quarterly reports that always showed steady growth, and Patricia handled most of the day-to-day finances since she'd retired. I'd trusted them both completely. The checking account balance looked normal. The savings account was lower than I remembered, but not alarmingly so. Then I clicked on the investment accounts, and my blood ran cold. Our retirement portfolio, which should have been worth close to $850,000, according to the last statement I'd seen, now showed a balance of just over $200,000. I refreshed the page, certain there must be an error. The number didn't change. $650,000. Gone. I grabbed my phone and called Gregory's office. His secretary answered. "Walsh Financial Services. How may I help you?" "This is Robert McLeod. I need to speak with Gregory immediately." "I'm sorry, Mr. McLeod, but Mr. Walsh is with a client right now. Can I have him return your call? Tell him it's urgent. I'm looking at my account statements, and there's a significant discrepancy." There was a pause. "I'll see if he's available. Please hold." The hold music played for less than 30 seconds before Gregory's smooth voice came on the line. Robert, good morning. What seems to be the problem? The problem is that our investment accounts show we're missing over $600,000. Another pause, longer this time. Ah, yes. I was planning to discuss that with you and Patricia at our next quarterly meeting. The markets have been quite volatile, and we made some strategic adjustments to protect your capital. Strategic adjustments that lost us 3/4 of our retirement savings? It's not lost, Robert. It's reallocated. These are temporary fluctuations. If you'll just give the strategy time to mature, I want a full accounting of every transaction. Today, of course. I'll prepare a detailed report and we can meet tomorrow morning. Say, 10 o'clock at my office? I think you'll feel much better once I walk you through everything. I didn't believe him. I'd interviewed enough criminals to know when someone was stalling for time. Tomorrow at 10. I'll be there. I hung up and sat in silence. The house felt different suddenly, like I was seeing it for the first time. How long had I been blind to what was happening right in front of me? Patricia came home at 2 in the afternoon, carrying shopping bags from Holt Renfrew. She was wearing a new outfit I didn't recognize, her hair freshly styled. How was book club? I asked, watching her face carefully. Oh, it was wonderful. We're reading Margaret Atwood. You know how I love her work. She set the bags down and kissed my cheek. I could smell expensive perfume, also new. That's nice. What did you buy? Just a few things. They had a sale. She started to walk past me toward the bedroom. Patricia, we need to talk about our finances. She stopped, her back to me. What about them? I checked the investment accounts today. We're down significantly. She turned around, and I saw something flicker across her face. Fear? Guilt? It was gone before I could name it. Well, you know the markets have been unpredictable. That's why we have Gregory managing things. Have you been checking the accounts regularly? Of course. Gregory sends me updates all the time. He says it's nothing to worry about. He sends you updates? Not us? I mean, he sends them to our email. I just assumed you saw them too. I logged into our shared email account on my laptop right there in the kitchen. Patricia watched, her face pale. I searched for emails from Gregory. There were dozens, all addressed only to Patricia's personal email, which was also linked to our shared account but had its own inbox. I'd never had reason to look at it before. I opened the most recent one from 2 days ago. My dearest Patricia, it began. Not dear Mr. and Mrs. McLeod, or dear Patricia and Robert, just Patricia. I felt my wife's hand on my arm. Robert, it's not what you think. What do I think, Patricia? He's just very personable, that's all. It doesn't mean anything. I kept reading. The email discussed market conditions, but the tone was intimate, familiar. At the bottom, Gregory had written, looking forward to seeing you Tuesday. I've missed you. Tuesday yoga class? I asked, my voice harder than I intended. Patricia pulled her hand away. I can explain. I'm listening. She sat down at the table across from me, and I saw tears forming in her eyes. For a moment, I wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay. 38 years of loving someone doesn't disappear in an instant. But I stayed silent, waiting. It started last year, she said quietly. I was feeling lost after retirement. You had your routines, your fishing trips with the guys, your projects around the house. But I felt invisible, like I didn't matter anymore. So you started an affair? It's not like that. Gregory he listened to me. He made me feel seen again. Important. And our money? Did he make that feel important too? What do you mean? Our retirement savings? Patricia. $650,000 is gone. Her face went white. That's not possible. He said the accounts were doing well. He showed me the statements. When was the last time you actually verified the numbers yourself? Checked the actual accounts, not just his reports? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I trusted him. You trusted him with our marriage and our money. That's quite a lot of trust for someone you barely know. I know him better than you think. The words hung in the air between us. I stood up, needing distance. I'm meeting with Gregory tomorrow at 10. You should be there. Robert, please. We can work through this. Work through what, exactly? The affair or the missing money? Because right now, Patricia, I'm not sure which one is worse. I walked out of the kitchen and went to our bedroom. I needed to think, to process what was happening. I'd handled crisis situations my entire career, stayed calm under pressure, made decisions when lives were at stake. But this was different. This was personal, and it hurt in ways I wasn't prepared for. I lay on our bed, staring at the ceiling, and thought about our marriage. 38 years. We'd met when I was 26, and she was 24. I'd been a young constable. She'd been a nursing student. We'd fallen in love fast, married within a year, built a life together. We had 2 sons, Thomas and Michael, both grown now with families of their own in Vancouver and Toronto. We'd survived the stresses of my job, the long hours, the danger, the trauma I'd brought home with me some nights. We'd survived raising teenagers, financial struggles, the death of both our parents. I thought we could survive anything, but I'd never imagined surviving her betrayal. That night, Patricia slept in the guest room. I lay awake, my mind racing. I kept thinking about those credit card charges, Canmore, our cottage. We'd bought it 15 years ago as a weekend retreat, a place to escape the city. It was 2 bedrooms, modest but comfortable, with a view of the Three Sisters Mountains. We went there maybe once a month, usually on weekends. But Patricia had been going during the week. On days she said she was doing other things, with Gregory. At 5 in the morning, I got up and made coffee. I couldn't sleep anyway. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and started going through every financial document I could find. Bank statements, credit card bills, investment reports. I organized them chronologically, looking for patterns. The discrepancies started about 18 months ago. Small withdrawals from savings, 5,000 here, 3,000 there. Then larger amounts. By 6 months ago, tens of thousands were moving in and out of accounts. Always with Gregory's authorization as our financial advisor. Always with Patricia's digital signature approving the transactions. I heard footsteps behind me. Patricia stood in the doorway in her bathrobe, her eyes red from crying. "I didn't know," she said. "About the money. You have to believe me. What did you think was happening when you signed all these authorization forms?" He said they were routine portfolio rebalancing, moving money between accounts to maximize returns. I didn't question it. "Because you trusted him." "Yes." "And the affair? Did you trust him with that too?" She flinched. It wasn't supposed to happen. It started with lunch meetings to discuss our finances, then coffee, then longer conversations about life, about feeling invisible after retirement. He understood, and I didn't. "You were busy, Robert. You had your hobbies, your friends, your routines. You seemed content. I didn't want to bother you with my feelings of being lost. So instead, you had an affair and let him steal our retirement savings." "I didn't let him do anything. I thought he was helping us." Her voice rose, and I saw the anger there. "Good. At least it was honest." "The cottage," I said. "You've been taking him to our cottage." She nodded, tears streaming down her face now. "For how long?" 6 months. Maybe longer. I don't remember exactly. I stood up. "I'm driving out there today." "Why?" "Because I need to see it. I need to see where you brought him, where you destroyed our marriage." "Robert, please don't do this." "Do what? Face the truth?" "You should have thought about that before you started lying to me." I went upstairs and packed a bag. Patricia followed, pleading with me to stay, to talk, to work this out. But I couldn't be in that house with her another minute. I needed space. I needed to think. The drive from Calgary to Canmore takes about an hour and a half. I drove in silence, watching the Rocky Mountains grow larger as I headed west on the Trans-Canada Highway. It was early November, and there was already snow on the peaks. The autumn colors were gone now, replaced by the gray-brown of approaching winter. I'd always loved this drive. Patricia and I used to make it together every few weeks, talking about nothing and everything, planning our future. Now I was making it alone, planning what felt like the end of that future. I arrived at the cottage just after 9 in the morning. It looked the same as always, a modest 2-story building with dark wood siding and a green metal roof. The driveway was empty. I let myself in with my key. The cottage smelled different. Patricia's perfume, the expensive one I'd noticed yesterday. And something else. Cologne. Men's cologne. That wasn't mine. I walked through the rooms slowly, looking for evidence. In the bedroom we usually shared, the bed was made with fresh sheets. Not the sheets we normally used, but new ones. Expensive Egyptian cotton, still with the tags on them, from a boutique store in Canmore. In the bathroom, I found men's toiletries. High-end shaving cream, aftershave, hair products. All brands I'd never seen before. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt something inside me break. This was our place, our refuge. And she'd brought him here, to the bedroom we'd shared, the place we'd made so many happy memories. I pulled out my phone and took pictures. Everything. The toiletries, the sheets, the receipts I found in the kitchen drawer for romantic dinners at restaurants in town. All evidence. I was a cop again, documenting a crime scene. Then, I started searching more thoroughly. I checked drawers, closets, even under the bed. In the back of the closet, I found a locked metal box. I recognized it immediately. It was one of ours, from our house in Calgary. We kept important documents in it, passports, birth certificates, that sort of thing. The lock was simple. I'd opened similar boxes dozens of times in my career. I went to my truck and got my toolbox, found a screwdriver, and popped the lock open in 30 seconds. Inside, I found documents, investment statements, but not the ones Gregory had been sending us. These were the real ones, from the actual brokerage firms where our money was supposedly invested. They showed the truth. Our money hadn't been lost in market fluctuations. It had been systematically transferred to accounts I didn't recognize. Foreign accounts. Offshore accounts. Gregory Walsh hadn't been managing our retirement savings. He'd been stealing them. I sat on the floor of the closet, surrounded by evidence of the two biggest betrayals of my life, and I felt something shift inside me. The hurt was still there. The pain was still real. But underneath it, something else was growing. Anger. Determination. The same feeling I'd had when I was tracking down criminals, when I knew I had them but needed to build an airtight case. I wasn't just a betrayed husband anymore. I was an investigator with a mission. I took pictures of every document, uploaded them to a secure cloud storage, then put everything back exactly as I'd found it. I didn't want Gregory or Patricia to know I'd discovered this yet. I needed more information. I needed to understand the full scope of what had happened. I drove back to Calgary that afternoon. Patricia was waiting when I got home, anxious and pale. "Did you go to the cottage?" she asked. "Yes." And I saw everything I needed to see. "Robert, I'm so sorry. I know I've hurt you, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll end things with Gregory. We can rebuild. Tell me about the metal box." Her face went white. "What metal box?" "The one from our house that's now hidden in the cottage closet. The one with the real investment statements." She sat down heavily on the sofa. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me anymore, Patricia. I've had enough lies." "I'm not lying. I don't know about any box." I believed her. I could tell when someone was lying, and she wasn't, which meant she genuinely didn't know about the documents Gregory had hidden at our cottage, which meant he'd been using our place not just for their affair, but as a hiding spot for evidence of his crimes. "Patricia, I think Gregory has been using you." "What do you mean?" "I mean, he started this affair to get close to you, to get you to trust him, to get you to sign authorization forms without asking questions. And while you thought you were having some kind of meaningful relationship, he was systematically stealing our retirement savings and hiding the evidence at our cottage." She shook her head. "No, he wouldn't do that. He cares about me." "Does he? Have you ever been to his home? Met his friends? Seen him anywhere except in private?" She didn't answer. "Patricia, you've been played. We both have. But now we're going to do something about it." The next morning, we went to Gregory's office together. He greeted us with his usual charming smile, shaking my hand, kissing Patricia's cheek. I wanted to break his jaw, but I stayed calm. "Robert, Patricia, please sit down. I've prepared the detailed report you requested. As you'll see, The market volatility has been challenging, but our long-term strategy remains sound. He handed me a folder full of charts and graphs and numbers that meant nothing because they were all fabricated. I flipped through it slowly, letting him think I was reviewing it carefully. "This is very thorough," I said, "but I have some questions about specific transactions. For instance, this transfer of $80,000 to an account in the Cayman Islands. Can you explain the investment strategy there?" His smile faltered. "I'm not sure which transaction you're referring to. These reports show domestic investments only." "I know. That's why I'm asking about the real statements. The ones you've been hiding at my cottage in Canmore." The color drained from his face. Patricia looked at me, then at Gregory, confusion turning to understanding on her face. "I don't know what you're talking about," Gregory said, but his voice shook. "Yes, you do. You've been embezzling our retirement savings for the past 18 months. You started an affair with my wife to ensure she wouldn't question the authorization forms you asked her to sign. You used our cottage as a hiding place for the evidence, and you thought you'd get away with it because I was just some retired cop who didn't understand finance." Gregory stood up. "This meeting is over. If you have accusations to make, you'll need to provide proof to the authorities. Way ahead of you." I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd taken of all the documents. "I've already filed a report with the Alberta Securities Commission and the RCMP Financial Crimes Unit. They're very interested in your offshore accounts." He sat back down, his face gray. "You can't prove those documents are real." "Actually, I can. I have originals, photographed with metadata showing date, time, and location. And I have a friend at the RCMP who's been investigating similar fraud cases. Turns out, you've done this before. Different city, different name, but the same pattern. They've been looking for you for 2 years." That was a bluff. I hadn't called anyone yet, but I needed to see his reaction, and it confirmed everything. Gregory's face crumpled. He wasn't a sophisticated criminal. He was a con artist who'd gotten sloppy. Patricia stood up, her voice shaking. "You used me. All of this. Everything you said to me. It was just to steal from us?" Gregory didn't look at her. "I think I need to call my lawyer." "You do that," I said. "And while you're at it, start thinking about how you're going to return our money. Because I'm not going anywhere until I get every cent back." We left his office. In the parking lot, Patricia broke down crying. I held her, and despite everything, despite the betrayal and the hurt and the anger, I still loved her. That's what 38 years does to you. It doesn't disappear just because someone makes a terrible mistake. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry." "I know. I never meant to hurt you. I know that too. Can you ever forgive me?" I didn't answer right away. I helped her into the car and drove us home in silence. Forgiveness wasn't something I could offer yet. Maybe not for a long time. But understanding? Maybe I could work toward that. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked with the RCMP to build a case against Gregory Walsh. It turned out my bluff had been closer to truth than I realized. Gregory had indeed been investigated for similar fraud in Ontario 3 years ago, but he'd disappeared before charges could be filed. He'd changed his name, moved to Alberta, and started over. With the evidence I'd collected and the RCMP's investigation, they were able to track down most of our missing money. Not all of it. Gregory had spent a significant amount on his lifestyle, but enough that our retirement wouldn't be completely destroyed. He was arrested and charged with fraud, embezzlement, and several other financial crimes. Patricia and I started counseling. She moved into the guest room permanently, and we lived like polite strangers for months. Some days I hated her. Some days I missed what we'd had. Most days I just felt tired. Our sons flew home when they heard what happened. Thomas, our oldest, wanted me to divorce Patricia immediately. Michael, always more diplomatic, urged us to try to work it out. I appreciated both perspectives, but ultimately, this was a decision only Patricia and I could make. 6 months after everything fell apart, we sat at our kitchen table with our counselor and discussed whether our marriage could be saved. "Robert," the counselor asked, "what do you need from Patricia to move forward?" I thought about it carefully. Honesty, complete transparency, and time. "I need time to trust again. Can you give those things?" the counselor asked Patricia. Yes, she said without hesitation. All of it. For as long as it takes. And Patricia, what do you need from Robert? Patience. And the chance to prove I'm not the person who made those terrible choices. I want to be worthy of his trust again. We didn't fix everything that day, or the next day, or the next month. But slowly, painfully, we started to rebuild. Patricia got a part-time job at a community health clinic, finding purpose in work again. I started volunteering with a program that helped fraud victims navigate the legal system, using my experience to help others. We sold the cottage in Canmore. Too many bad memories. Instead, we bought a small cabin up near Jasper, a new place with no history, where we could make new memories. A year after everything fell apart, Gregory Walsh was sentenced to 8 years in prison. We got back about 60% of what he'd stolen, enough to secure our retirement if we were careful. It wasn't what we'd planned, but it was enough. Patricia and I sat in the courtroom when the sentence was handed down. I held her hand as the judge spoke about the devastating impact of Gregory's crimes on his victims. When it was over, we walked out of that courthouse together. "Do you still love me?" Patricia asked as we stood in the parking lot. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was 63 now, with more gray in her hair than when this all started. She looked tired, older, but also somehow stronger, like she'd been broken and put back together slightly different, but maybe more honest. "Yes," I said. "I still love you. Even after everything?" "After everything. But Patricia, the woman I love now, is different from the woman I thought I was married to. And I'm different too. We're not the same people we were a year ago. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know yet, but I'm willing to find out if you are." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I am. I really am." We drove home to Calgary, to our house that had seen so much pain but also so much healing. We had dinner together, watched some television, and went to our separate bedrooms. She was still in the guest room. Maybe she always would be. Or maybe, someday, we'd find our way back to sharing a bedroom again. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if we'd make it another 38 years, or if this fragile piece we'd built would shatter again. But I knew this. I'd survived the worst betrayal of my life. I'd fought back against it, and I'd won. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. And tonight, as I lay in bed in our house in Calgary, listening to the November wind rattle the windows, I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Hope. Not certainty, not happiness, but hope. And for now, for today, that was enough. Tomorrow, Patricia and I would wake up and try again. We'd have breakfast together, maybe go for a walk along the Bow River, take things one day at a time. We'd keep going to counseling. We'd keep working on trust, on honesty, on rebuilding what had been destroyed. And maybe, just maybe, we'd find our way back to each other. Not to who we were before that couple was gone forever, but to who we could become after surviving something that should have destroyed us. I closed my eyes and thought about that cabin near Jasper, about making new memories in a place untainted by betrayal, about second chances and hard-won forgiveness, and the complicated mathematics of love and trust and time. 38 years of marriage doesn't disappear because of one terrible mistake, but it changes. Everything changes. And maybe, I thought as sleep finally came, maybe that's okay. Maybe we'll be stronger for it. Maybe we'll build something better than what we had before. Or maybe we won't. Maybe this fragile piece will be all we ever get, and one day we'll decide it's not enough. But tonight, I had hope. And after everything we'd been through, hope felt like a miracle.